Hello and welcome to The Brief. I'm Jessy Chahal. Today is the second day of the second meeting of the 14th Parliament seating. Stay with us right here on Bernama TV as we'll bring you more updates from the Parliament and other current issues as well. In today's edition, I'll be speaking to teacher Komathy Veerasinghan, an award-winning teacher from SMJK Ave Maria Convent Ipoh, on her recent success. Also, of course, as usual, Nordin Abdullah will join us shortly for the crisis brief. Well, let's take you to what's happening this morning, or rather what has happened earlier this morning at the Parliament. According to the Minister in the Prime Minister's Department of Law and Parliament, Datuk Sri Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jaafar, he says the blanket ban on political gatherings for the Melaka election campaign will be enforced equally regardless of party. Discussion on the issue will continue during the next cabinet meeting. Now, previously on October 24th, the Health Minister, Kari Jamaluddin, announced the prohibition of all activities, gatherings, and even social meetings related to political campaigning for the Melaka polls to prevent another surge in COVID-19 cases. And still on Parliament, according to the Deputy Health Minister, Dato Aaron Agudagang, third phase of the vaccine clinical trials for Sinovac for children under the age of 12 will begin in Malaysia at the end of this month. Malaysia at this point has been selected as one of the locations for clinical trials. And apart from Sinovac, he says that the other vaccine being studied at this point was Novavax. Malaysia is firmly committed to the Five Power Defence Agreements, or the FPDA, despite the emergence of the new Australia United Kingdom, United States, or AUKUS Security Pact. Now, the AUKUS Security Pact is a trilateral security agreement involving Australia, the United Kingdom, or UK, and the United States for the Indo-Pacific region. Under this pact, the US and the UK will help Australia acquire nuclear-powered submarines. Now, our defense minister has this to say. He said, of course, that Malaysia will make sure that the relations that have been formed over the last 50 years under the FPDA will continue to be upheld and defended as well. That's word from the Defence Minister. Of course, it's time now to bring in Nordin for the crisis brief with Nordin. Lots of things to underline and underscore here. Nordin, it's good to speak to you again. What do you have for us today?
Always good to speak with you, Jessy. And there's plenty of crisis today. We're spoiled, unfortunately, for choice. But we're tracking three main stories, which I think have key and possibly further issues leading down the future. The first is what's going on in Sudan with the military coup that has taken place there in the last 24 hours. Of course, Malaysia has considerable assets there in the form of Petronas. That is something that is being monitored very closely by Petronas, I believe, as well as Wisma Putra, Wisma Putra recently put out a statement that all of the Malaysians who are registered with the embassy there have been accounted for. And I think one of the things that the Wisma Putra as well as Petronas are very well aware of what's going on, I think, in Sudan. And I think that's why they've been well prepared for this. Issues have been simmering there for quite some time. And so I think that is a story we need to continue to watch as the world also leaders from all around the world have condemned the kind of issues that have been brought up there, as well as the problems that we've seen with some deaths by people protesting the military coup in the streets. The second story that we're looking at today is actually how the Malaysian government will continue to deal with fake news now that the emergency ordinance has been repealed. And we've seen that Tan Sri Anwar Musa has put a statement out regarding this and the management of fake news, and he has stated that the MCMC will continue to manage fake news within the context of the existing laws. And of course, those laws are quite well prepared and able to deal with the issues of fake news. Of course, COVID-19 has really kicked off not just a pandemic of health proportions, but a pandemic of fake news proportions. And that's something that the government, not just MCMC, need to continue to fight, as well as at the community level. The third story that is really part of a crisis response, really, in the last few months, Malaysia's global ranking in terms of trade has dropped considerably. And dealing with that, the MITI together with MaTrade have put out what's called the National Trade Blueprint. And this has been a very extensive document. I had a chance to look at some of the information that is contained there. But one of the key areas I thought was very specific and very timely, which was the inclusion of country branding and communications as a key response to the crisis. A lot of branding has been related to Malaysia's tourism and food sectors. Now that needs to be spilled over into the broader economy. And the other part of the document in terms of a crisis response is looking at how Malaysia and the Malaysian workforce will become more competitive and more productive as a way to deal with the drop in exports. So this is an inclusive and very well thought out policy that is looking for clear and concise response, not just from the government, but also from the industry. And I think when we look at it in the context of what's coming up with the upcoming budget in the next couple of days, I think this strategy and this policy document will feature very strongly in the months and years to come.
Right, Nordin, I just wanted to take you back to what you mentioned earlier about fake news. Now, we know the minister is saying that it will continue to be controlled until after the emergency ordinance has also been pulled back. But in between then and now, and also sort of, coming towards what I believe might be at this point the tail end of the pandemic in terms of us learning how to take better control of it, how do you think we can prevent further crisis from breaking out in terms of misinformation, disinformation, and fake news? It's almost like a tsunami that has gathered so much momentum in the past 2 years as well, with, fear being the number one sort of pull factor here, Nordin.
You hit the nail on the head there, Jessy. Fear is a very powerful emotion that often drives behavior. And when we talk about behavioral communications, especially in the area of fake news and misinformation and disinformation, it is a key area that we need to understand. So I think there's two parts of this equation in terms of designing a sustainable future and a future that is perhaps less fraught with fake news. One, the authorities need to be better versed in understanding what is out there in terms of the aggressive and illegal development of fake news. The other part is community, and I often talk about a community response, the responsibility of individuals within the community to manage and understand and do a little bit of fact checking themselves so that they don't share fake news. And it's not a major thing that can be done. It's a very simple thing, but it's when a lot of those major things, a lot of those small things go wrong, it creates a major crisis. And I think this is one thing that we need to start to go and deal with in terms of dealing with fake news moving forward.
Right, you were absolutely right to say earlier that it is we're spoiled for choice in terms of topics today to discuss in terms of crisis. Very quickly, under 30 seconds, can you sum it all up in terms of mindset moving forward? We've also got the budget coming up in the next few days as well. How should Malaysians be sort of thinking at this point?
We've got to start becoming more and more resilient, and within the context of each crisis, we need to look for the opportunities. There are a lot of opportunities in the global market. We need to be smart enough and fast enough to grab them, and I think that is the way forward.
Wonderful, Nordin. We'll speak to you soon. Do take care in the meantime. That was Nordin Abdullah, our crisis management analyst and expert, weighing in on some of the crises taking place from Sudan all the way to the issue of fake news, and of course Malaysia wanting to again promote ourselves, our brand, as a made in Malaysia brand with more prominence within the country and in the region as well. As we talk about building prominence and being resilient, Fintech has has been a sector that has showed us that resilience really does mean something. Now, according to the Securities Commission, the financial technology sector, or Fintech, could be a catalyst in rebuilding the Malaysian economy as the country recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic. Its chairman, Datuk Zaid Alba, emphasized the importance of technology and Fintech in shaping the capital market ecosystem. Now, according to the Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Dr. Sri Mustafa Muhammad, the publication of big data analysis by the Statistics Department is relevant, or is a relevant initiative rather, to improve the efficiency of the labour market in the country. He points out that data is important for stakeholders, including policymakers and those in the education field, to better plan their programs. In terms of dollars and cents in Forex today, the ringgit opened easier against the greenback on a lack of market catalyst. Of course, a catalyst is an event that propels the price of a security dramatically to go up or down. At 9:02 a.m. this morning, the local currency depreciated to 4.15 versus the greenback from 4.14 at yesterday's closing time. A dealer that we spoke to says that market participants are cautious ahead of the tabling of the budget 2022 in just a couple of days, in fact, on Friday. And from that, as we gain back strength in resilience, here's one Malaysian who has showed us dedication and passion will always come through. Another Malaysia Boleh moment for us. Chemistry teacher V. Komathy from SMK Ave Maria Convent in Ipoh, a 38-year-old who has been teaching for the past 14 years, received international recognition at a virtual ceremony for her dedication and passion in teaching. We're honored to be joined by her today and to speak to her. Komathy Veerasinghan, a mother of three, a teacher from the SMJK Ave Maria School in Ipoh, has served in the education industry for over a decade, and she was recently selected as the winner for an award out of 26,000 entries, not just in Malaysia, but across the globe. Komathy, I'd like to bring you in right now. Such a pleasure to speak to you.
Hi,
And
good afternoon.
firstly, congratulations on this win. How do you feel about it all?
Oh, thank you very much for the opportunity given. And first of all, I feel like really, until now, I'm in shock, really. And I feel very grateful for this award had been presented to me due to my service in my teaching and learning as an
That's right.
educator.
It's always nice to be appreciated and finally recognized. We know that the teaching profession is not an easy one. It is tireless. It is, it is day and night. So day you're teaching, at night you're preparing. The work really never has a stop-start time. But teacher, do tell us this. We've heard about some of your inventions, which is firstly the Chem Ester Kit. And then what I know as the biomass activated carbon, or BAC, for the learning of chemistry as a subject. Would you like to walk us through on what really mooted these inventions and how it really works?
Okay. Regarding my Chem Ester kit, actually, I invented to overcome the learning difficulties faced by my students, especially in chemistry, particularly to carbon compound topic. Because as you all aware, that chemistry is full of formulas, and where students will be discouraged of furthering their learning in chemistry. And one of the challenging chapters is carbon compounds full of formulas and drawing the structure and writing the molecular formulas. So due to that, I would like to attract their attention, and I came up with an innovative way of teaching them using the gamebot. And
So this was done during the MCO. Was this done during the thick of the MCO when you had to sort of teach from home?
No, it's actually I've done it while I was carrying out a face-to-face session before the MCO. And beside the Chem Ester kit, I also invented a BAC toxic dye removal that is basically most on chemistry knowledge application. Because my team of innovation, I focus in two things. One is tackling the problems arise while I'm doing my teaching in my classroom. And the other theme of my innovation, I focus on how my students can apply the concept and the knowledge they gain in the classroom to overcome the problems to be solved in their daily life.
I think that's such an important point that you brought up. The knowledge of application as well. It's one thing to know it in theory, and with chemistry, it's difficult enough in theory, and then to understand it well enough to apply. You laugh, and I know as well because being a science student, I battled with my chemistry classes. But let's move on to when it became more difficult, perhaps in terms of being in the pandemic and then having to teach remotely as well. How difficult is it to teach chemistry online? I mean, you've got the blackboard, you've got face to face, you can really approach your class in a more obviously physical manner. But online, does it make it easier perhaps with technology as well? Has that helped?
Yeah, of course. With the technologies, I will tell that the deliverance on my content on this chemistry concept was much easier by integrating virtual reality, animations, and all the readily available video sources in the YouTubes and so on. And beside that, I think COVID really was good for me. I think people will say that they are affected with COVID, but when come to this education wise, I think this was a big challenge was given to all the educators to explore more on their digital literacy, where they can bring a new pedagogy to the classroom via online teachings. And
Right.
beside that,
So
as
because
yeah.
because this subject teacher requires a lot of experiments and hands-on activities, which is why I'm wondering how did the online structure work better in terms of understanding, but perhaps also important to note that students these days are quite tech savvy. But in terms of accessibility for those who can't have that access, not just students but teachers as well, how short, or rather how challenging is it in short to teach chemistry from the teacher's perspective?
Okay. Due to this pandemic, right, we are unable to carry out any lab works because the students are not going to the school. So where I have come out with integrating more on project-based learning, where students able to come out with their creative solution by using the concept that they have learned virtually via online classrooms, and then they can come out with the creative ideas and creative products via project-based learning using the things which are available around them by using the household staff and all that.
Right, creative and innovative. As we transition into the endemic phase, teacher, do you think after moving back into classrooms, online learning should now turn perhaps into somewhat of a hybrid mode? Perhaps for extra classes that can be done from home instead of being at school, or any other examples?
Okay, I think regarding the hybrid mode, hybrid learning, where not all students are schools are well equipped with the tools to carry out hybrid learning. So in these circumstances, the teachers plays a very important role to determine what type of method to be implemented in their classroom, so that at the end of the day, none of the students are left out without any achieving the objective of the subject. That means we have all the learning objectives to be achieved. So our we focus on make sure that each and every one are attended well, so they can come up with their creative assessment tool to find out where the students are lacking, what problems they face while they are online learning, and these problems should be tackled while they come back to school to face to face.
Teacher, you've been teaching, or rather been in this industry for over 14 years now. Do you have any tips, perhaps even tricks, on how to maintain the momentum and passion for teaching?
If you ask me tips and tricks, sorry, I also don't have. I'm also seeking for it one right now. But what I will say is, we being an educator, we are playing an important role to make a change in our students' life. So our focus and our role are very important. So I think is persistency is very important in our career, and continuously do for the benefit of our students, not seeking anything else. Do it for the benefit of our students.
That's right. With that thought in mind, thank you very much, teacher, for all the good work that you do for the benefit of students across the country. In one way or another, you have touched many of the students' lives, and hopefully, many more scientists will come out of your classes from now on as well. We'll speak to you soon. In the meantime, do take care and all the best.
Thank you.
That was our award-winning teacher, Komathy Veerasinghan, joining us. She's a mother of three, teacher from the SMJK Ave Maria School in Ipoh, and she has served in the education industry for about 14 years. Dedication, passion for the subject, and ensuring that every student benefits one way or another. Of course, it takes a lot of patience too. Hey, here's some updates that's just come in. Malaysia fully supports the decision made by the ASEAN chair, Brunei, on the issue of representation for Myanmar at the 38th and 39th ASEAN Summit and related summits. This, according to the Prime Minister, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob. And moving on from Datuk Hishamuddin, he says Malaysia does not compromise on issues of national interest despite good relations with superpowers, be it ASEAN or the FPDA. And employers will have to bear all costs for bringing in foreign workers. And those are some of the updates we have received just at this point. Now, here's an update on the vaccination numbers based on the Health Ministry's data as of yesterday. A total of 94.7% of the adult population in the country have completed their COVID-19 vaccination. To be exact, that number is 22,166,633 individuals. Meanwhile, 55.3% of teenagers aged between 12 to 17 have completed their vaccination as well. Hey, here's some news in brief. Let's start off with the upcoming Melaka elections. The Deputy Health Minister defends the ban on campaigning in the elections. He says that the ban is necessary due to the high number of cases there. And its Chief Minister says all parties must comply with campaign restrictions for the sake of public safety. Pejuang are saying that they are staying out of the elections this time in Melaka and they won't be backing any sides. Moving on to COVID-19 news, the Prime Minister has announced that the one-off loss of income aid payments of RM500 each will begin today. And for those who are planning to go to Langkawi, the Tourism Minister has said that the Langkawi International Tourism Bubble is now open to all countries. So be expecting some international tourists at some point as well. This, of course, is in line with Malaysia's new goal to promote the Made in Malaysia brand once again after Vietnam and Thailand exceeded us in FDIs, that's foreign direct investments, last year. And no more 10,000 ringgit fine. The Law Minister says penalties for COVID-19 SOP violation will be back to the original after the emergency ordinance was annulled. However, Anwar Musa says that the revocation of this ordinance still means that fake news will be controlled. In other news, Wisma Putra say they are monitoring political developments in Sudan following a military takeover there. And in the tech world, Federal Territories Minister says that the DBKL ICT Strategic Plan 2021-2025 will be improved to support the nation's smart city vision. And former badminton Olympic champion Rexy will return to BAM as their deputy coaching director. Those were some updates from around the country. Let's quickly move on to share with you what's happening internationally. Of course, as Nordin has shared with us earlier as well, there is a political turmoil that's happening in Sudan. Its military seized power from a transitional government just yesterday, and soldiers killed at least 3 people and wounded 80 as street protests broke out against the coup. The leader of the takeover, General Abdul Fattah al-Burhan, dissolved the military-civilian council that had been established to guide the country to democracy following the overthrow of Omar al-Bashir just 2 years ago. Now, he has announced a state of emergency, but he's also promised to hold elections in July 2023 and hand over to an elected civilian government at that point of time. Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok was detained and taken to an undisclosed location. Britain has come in to condemn the military coup in Sudan, says it is unacceptable betrayal of the Sudanese people, and called on security forces to release the Prime Minister. Its statement is echoed by the UN Secretary General, who condemned the coup as well. The European Union's drug regulator says that the Moderna booster vaccine may be given to people aged 18 and above at least 6 months after the second dose. Now, it is the second COVID-19 booster to be approved in the EU. And in Saudi Arabia, its crown prince launched a Middle East Green Initiative just yesterday, which aims to invest 10.4 billion US dollars to reduce carbon emissions in the region and protect the environment. He says Saudi Arabia would contribute 15% of the funds and would work with the other states surrounding on funding and execution of initiatives. Plans also include establishing a regional carbon capture storage center, early storm warning center, and a regional cloud seeding program. Very exciting things happening there in the Middle East. Let me take you to what's trending on Twitter. Another new Marvel movie is out. Netizens are raving about the new movie. It's called Eternals after it premiered in European cinemas just yesterday. Now, it boasts a star-studded cast including Gemma Chan, Richard Madden, and Angelina Jolie. And in other entertainment news, Adele is trending on Twitter as well as her latest song, Easy on Me, shoots to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts this week, making her the fifth #1 hit of her career. Well, this song, Easy on Me. That's all we have on this edition of The Brief. Thank you so much for being with me. Remember, we're on Twitter as well. If you would like to leave us any comments or share particular views of what's trending locally, internationally, we'll be more than happy to hear from you. My handle is @Jessy Chahal. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.